Hello everyone, welcome to IAS Fully Explained. This will be the first channel on YouTube which will give you the entire syllabus of IAS in upcoming months. So first thing first, make sure to subscribe the channel and press the bell icon so you get all the notifications of the upcoming videos. So as I told you earlier that in the first video we discussed about the ancient history, the sources of India, part 1. Now we'll talk about the part 2 of the sources of India. So let's start. So we'll start with the non-literary sources. Non-literary sources are something, for example, inscriptions, which are not written in books, and something the study of inscription is called as epigraphy. So this is also an important point here, is that the study of inscription is called as epigraphy. Very simple and firm in its statement. So earlier inscriptions were written in Prakrit language. In later time they were written in Tamil, and Sanskrit were also used to write those inscriptions. Then the Mauryan king Ashoka, the great Ashoka of Mauryan dynasty, was the first person to issue such inscriptions. So the most of his inscription are in Prakrit language. This is an important question that you have to remember. And some of written the Prakrit language written in Brahmi script. Some northwestern inscription of Ashoka were written in Kharosti script. So this is the thing that you have to remember. Now moving to the next thing. Aramaic and Greek script were used for the inscription in Afghanistan. So Aramaic and Greek were used in Afghanistan, and so that the local people could understand their subject matter. So as you can see that Ashokan inscriptions, they were different, written in different language at different places, so the local people can easily understand. For instance, in Afghanistan they were written in Aramaic and Greek. So before the Gupta period, 95% of such inscriptions were written in Prakrit language. So that's an important fact here to be underlined, that before the Gupta period 95% of inscriptions were written in Prakrit. Like most of the inscriptions were written in Prakrit language in a Brahmi script, that has an indigenous origin. So this is an important question which is frequently asked in the question paper. For example, for instance, this was the question asked in 2016 UPSC prelims, that Brahmi script was first deciphered in 1837 by James Prinsep. So the question was, who deciphered the Ashokan inscription first? So answer was James Prinsep in 1837. He was a civil servant. So Brahmi was written from left to right, like Hindi, from left to right, and the Kharosti is written from right to left. Brahmi was written from right to left, left to right, and while Kharosti from right to left. So this is also, you have to know about this, that because this is also important. Then moving to the next. So the earliest known inscription are the Ashokan edicts, that you can say. There are 14 rock edicts, a number of minor rock edicts, 7 pillar edicts. Then there are 90 other inscription of Ashokas discovered so far. For example, there are other inscription. For example, Hathigumpa inscription of Kalinga king Kharavela is also an important source. Junagadh inscription of Rudradaman, he was a Saka ruler. Nana Ghat inscription of Satvahana king Gautam Puri. So these are the inscription that you have to remember, that which inscription belong to which which king and which time. So this also tells us about tons and tons things about the history. Make sure that you remember everything. Now moving on to the next thing is that uh, then there are Takshila silver scroll and Panchtar stone inscription of Kushans. Then there was Prasastis. Prasastis was something very different. You have to understand what was the difference between Prasastis. They were also inscriptions, but the only difference was that they were the different kind of official inscription written by the court poets. So that is the catch here. They were same inscription as the earlier, but they were written by the court poets of the officials, on the behalf of kings and emperor. That's why they were called as Prasastis. So this might also be a question. Then Allahabad Prasastis on Samudragupta was written by his court poet Harisena, on an Ashokan pillar, narrates that India-wide conquest of Samudragupta. So this is the first Prasastis of Samudragupta written by Harisena. Gwalior Prasastis of King Bhoj throw light on the imperial Pratiharas. It tells King Bhojas was a Pratihara ruler, so it tells us about that. Then there were another inscriptions like Diopara inscription of King Vijay. Tells us about his victories and achievements. For example, this is the very important one. A whole inscriptions which reveals the achievement of Chalukya King Pulkisen. Ravi Kriti was the author of this a whole inscription. Then moving to the next is that Iran inscription of Samudragupta. You have to understand this, and this is a quite important one, that Iran inscription there is a reference of Sati for the first time in this inscription. So this is quite important. Sati was the process, very what you can say, that a stigma on Indian society. The two inscription are Pravati Gupta. She was the daughter of Chandragupta II, married to Vakataka King Rudradaman. Then there is Mehrali pillar inscription of Chandragupta II. Then there is Bhitri stone pillar inscription of some Sakanda Gupta. These are the kind of inscription which tells us about at the time of the Guptas, how they were living, and it tells us about everything, almost everything. Then coming towards the next is about the Harshvardhana. Valuable information can be gathered from the Sonipat copper seal inscription. Then there are private inscription are more numerous than the royal edict. So this is also a thing to be known, that not only the royal issued inscription, but there were also the private inscriptions too. And they were more numerous as compared to the royal edict. So this might be also a question, that that there was not only royals were issuing these inscriptions, but there were also the private inscription were also there. And then there was Satvahana kings of Deccan were the first one to grant land to religious people. So this is also a very important issue. This become an important issue in ancient history. After Satvahana king started this kind of ritual to grant lands to the to religious people, like grant land to Brahmins and everything, and after that it kind of become sort of a fashion statement in ancient India. So this is also very important. So you should know that the Satvahana kings were the first ones to grant the lands. Then there were another. So then these were the inscription. These were the which you can say from the inscription. These were the study of epigraphy. These are the non literary sources of Indian history that we are studying about. Then there come another sub part of non literary history, which is coins. We can also know about histories of our of our country, of India, by coins, because they were also an important source. I'll tell you how. First and foremost thing that we have to understand that numismatics is known as the study of coins. As the epigraphy was known as the study of inscriptions, numismatics is known as the study of coins. So this is also a very important point to remember here. It include visual elements, such as script, such as images on the coins, and so the ancient coin were mostly minted in metals. For example, so these are the important, you have to know that they were in copper, they were in gold, they were in silver, and they were also in lead. So I'm not talking about a specific time period here. I'm talking about the entire ancient history, that there were the copper, gold, silver, lead. There were like four kind of gold coins there. Then moving toward the next thing is that earliest coins found in India contain certain symbols which were called as punch marked coin. This is also a very important question. So the earliest coin in India contained symbols, and they were called as punch marked coins. So note this point down. So they were made of silver and copper. So you can say that from 6th century BC onward. So you can say that the coins starting appearing, so you can form a assertion here that the coins in early Vedic period were absent. There were no coins because they start appearing from 6th century onward. At the time of Mahajanpadas, they started, and they were called as punch marked coin. So this might be, that's how you study history. Earliest literary evidence of coins is of 7th BC, like in the very late of the the later Vedic period. Then four coin punched on metallic pieces. Coins were punched on the metallic pieces. There were figures like a bear and almost some of the legends, and such coins were issued by both monarch and state authorities, and also by private merchants. So this is also very important thing to understand. As I told you earlier, that inscriptions there were two type of inscription. There were private inscription also, there were the royal inscription also. And also there might be a question that about coins also, that was coin only a sole property of the issued only, they were only issued by the government or only issued by the the royals. But no, they were also, yes, royal issued the most of the coin, but they were also issued by the state authorities. They were also issued by the private merchants, trade guilds. So this is also an important point to note here, that coins were not only they were issued by royals, but they were also issued by small bodies, the private bodies and the state authorities also. So in the absence of legends that we don't know, so their time and exact place has not been yet, we are unable to find that, where, when they were exactly made. So because of they are legends, because we don't have any certain proof of that, they only were some vague religious and artistic ideas. The rare legends on them were mentions of the private guilds were also there, which were issued them. The coins of copper, silver, gold, issued by the Indo-Greeks are of artistic excellence. So now we come a bit, deep in, not deep, you can say, about the end of the, not end, about the middle of the Indian ancient history, the Indo-Greeks. So there is also an important statement here, is that coins of copper, silver, and gold issued by Indo-Greeks they have some artistic excellence, which means that from the literary source we know that name of 4 or 5 Bactrian Greek kings who ruled in the northwestern region of India for nearly 200 years. But from the numismatic study, we can nearly find 30 kings and queens. We can literally know that 30 kings and queen ruled the area. So see, here, look at the difference here. See, the different, as I told you, we learned about the literary sources earlier. Now we are studying about the coins and numismatics study. So you can see that if we did not have any numismatic studies, or if we did not have found any coins, we might have a very vague understanding of history. For instance, this literary source only name 4 or 5 Bactrian Greek kings, but the coins tell us they were not 4, they were almost around 30 kings and queens. So this, look at the difference, like almost 25 kings are not mentioned in the literary sources, so which also tells us about the importance and the value of coins of copper, silver and gold. So while you are understanding these facts, these proves a very important when you are writing answer in mains, or answering questions in prelims. These kind of basic understandings help you to eliminate the wrong answer. So this is also very important, you have to understand. So now, this is also an important statement, that the first coin to bear the name and image of the ruler were issued by Indo-Greeks, who established the control over the northwestern part of the subcontinent. So the Indo-Greeks were the first one who issued the name and the images of the rulers. Earlier it wasn't that like that. Earlier either it was legends or it was figures, or something like that, but now they were issuing the ruler's face on it and everything. Then this is also and first gold coin were issued by Indo-Greeks too. So this is also important. First gold coins were issued by Indo-Greeks. So it means that in the Mauryan Empire or in the Mahajanpadas, the gold coins were not issued at that time. So but you have to understand these two differences. But Guptas issued highest number of gold coins in ancient India. So this is also sometimes mixed between, sometimes the half knowledge that sometimes we get confused in prelims, that about this, that sometimes we thought that Guptas issued the gold coins or Indo-Greeks issued the highest number of gold coins. So we don't have to get confused in this. So we have to understand it a bit more thoroughly, that the first gold coins were issued by Indo-Greeks, and the highest number of gold coins were issued by Guptas. So this was this. Then some of the coins were issued by the guilds. As I earlier told you, that not all coins were issued by royals. Some were issued by guilds, association of the merchants, alternative name of guild. So coins also portray kings as gods and contain religious symbols also. So this were. Then comes about the archaeological. Now we studied about the literary sources, we study about the non-literary sources, we study about the numismatics, we studies about the epigraphy. Now we comes about the archaeologically, how we were able to find it archaeologically. So first of all, we need to know what is archaeology. So as its definition, it is a science, so that enable us to systematically dig the successive layers of old mound to form an idea of the material life of the people of the past on the basis of the remains. So what kind of remains that we will found when we dig something up, and by looking at those remains, we can formulate that how they would have lived there, or how they formed society there. So so this is an interesting fact, that Harappan knew how to write, and but the historians have not been able to read it. Nobody had deciphered it yet. But they knew how to write. So this is also and there is also a term called a megalith, which is also asked in UPSC in recent years. In South India, some people were buried along with their tools, weapons, pottery, and other belonging under a big heavy stone, heavy rocks. So that was called a megalith. So you should also understand that. And this is very common that everybody knows that this one, that carbon C14 method is used to find the find the dates of the remains. That's how we get to know that that how much old is some material or some things that we have found, by digging up, that how much old they are is just because of this carbon C14. We are able to find the exact date, that how much old they are. And the agriculture was practiced in Kashmir and Rajasthan around 7,000 and 6,000 BC, so which is a very very ancient time. As you can say, it's a Neolithic era. In Neolithic era, the agriculture. So how we were able to find that the agriculture was in Neolithic era and it was in 700 or 600 BC? There are two things, the remains that we have found, and the second thing is due to the carbon C14 we were able to find that. So this is the advancements of science which has helped us a lot when it comes to know about our history. So the Archaeological Survey of India was established in 1861 under Alexander Cunningham. And you should also know that Archaeological Survey of India was established in 1861, which is at the time of the British rule in India, and it was reconstituted in 1902 under Sir John Marshall. So these are the two things. First, don't mix up these two things. In 1861 it was under Alexander Cunningham, and in reconstitution 1902 under John Marshall. Now moving to the next thing is that, so there was another person called M. Wheeler. He introduced the stratigraphic method. What is a stratigraphic method? This is also a kind of a fascinating issue to be tackled. So stratigraphic method is which help us in establishing chronology. A chronology in the sense that this event happened in this particular year, that event happened in that particular year. So we can find a kind of a sense, like this, for instance, that if this happens in 2001, so this happened in 2003, in 2005 and 7. So this kind of in chronological order. So M. Wheeler introduced this method, which is called as stratigraphic method, and which helps establishing the chronologically, like when was Gupta's rule were there in a specific time period, the Mauryans were there in specific time period. So this tells us about that. So then comes the epigraphical sources. As I earlier told you, epigraphy means the study of inscriptions. So the Ashoka's inscription were written in Prakrit, as I earlier told you, language, and mainly in Brahmi script. Only two of his inscription found from Manchera and Savage. Now Manchera and Savajgarh are written in Kharosthi script. So this is also very important. So only two of his inscription are found from Manchera, and Savajagarh are written in Kharosthi script. Rest of his script are written in Prakrit language. And the Kandahar inscription, as I earlier told you, in the northeast in Afghanistan, of Ashoka has been written in Greek and Aramaic script. So this is also important. Then moving to the next thing is that Mahasthan and Sahagura inscription describe about the great famine and help given by the rulers of his starved citizens. So we are talking. Let me remind you that we are understanding about the ancient history. We are not studying about the ancient history, but we are studying about the sources that provided us this. The reason why we were able to understand our history is because of these resources. Because of these sources, Sagura inscription is depicted, on copper plate. There are also other inscription. For example, only in Bhavru inscription, Ashoka has called himself Magadhraj, the king of Magad, and the ruler dedicated himself to Buddha, Buddha's Dhamma and Sangha. So this is also a very important thing that we can understand. Then the Dhandeva's inscription of Pushyamitra describe about the Ashwamedh Yagya performed by him. So this is also important question that Ashwamedh Yagyas were performed by which ruler, and from the dynasty. They also asked about the dynasty sometime. Then there are the also other inscriptions that tell us about the very different things. For example, the Nanaghat inscription of Naganika describes about Satakarni one. The Rudra Girnar inscription was first inscription of Sanskrit. First inscription of Sanskrit language about Saka ruler Rudradaman. So this is also very important because Sanskrit plays a very important role in our ancient history. So Girnar inscription was the first inscription of Sanskrit language about Saka ruler Rudradaman. So these are the things which tells us about the history. As I earlier told you, in Iran inscription of Bhanugupta provide us about the evidence of Sati. In my last video, Ramgarh inscription, for the first time they provide the evidence of prostitution. So this is also important, as far as prelims is concerned. So Allahabad inscription of Samudragupta described about his conquest. As this I also mentioned earlier, Udaygiri inscription belonged to the period of Chandragupta Vikramaditya. And these are the various type of inscription that we, for example, the inscription which describes about the rule and regulation related with the land grants. As I told you, Satvahana was the one who first rulers, they granted the lands, but there were inscription who told us about the rules and regulation related to, like Damodarpur, like Gartiva, like Karamanda. These were the kind of inscription which told us about the land grant rules and regulation. The Vitari inscription depicts Skanda Gupta's victory over Hanas. So these things tells us about, for example, the Iran inscription which tells us about Sati. Ramgarh tells us about the prostitution. Allahabad inscription tells us about the conquest of Samudragupta. So the Madhuvan and Vanshekhara's inscription belong to the period of Harsha. So this is also important. So we got to know about Harsha more and more from Madhuvan and Vanshekhara inscription. A whole inscription written by Ravi Kriti, I also told you, depict the name of Kalidasa. So this is also important. Then Uttar Merur inscription depict the local self-government of Chola period, which was very very famous. It's also important, you have to remember this. Then there was another inscriptions, for example, which tells us about the various different things. For example, Kudmi Yamalaya Pulukotai inscription depict about the Indian music and ragas. So this is also important. Then numismatical sources, as I earlier told you, the so these are the things that you have to remember. These are very important. Harappan did not use coins. As I told you, the first coins, they appeared in the in the late 7th BC. So numerical sources, so you can easily if you know that fact, so you can easily cancel this statement that Harappan did not use coins, because the Rig Veda mentions the Nishka Griva. Later Vedic literature mentioned about the Satman uh, and Karashanal. The coinage system evolved in 6th century BC. As I earlier told you, the early coins are punch marked coin, and this is also very important. They were called as punch marked coin. Our earliest coin was made of silver. They have been called as Kasarpan, and this is also important. As I told you, the first gold coin were issued by the Greeks, Indo-Greeks, and the earliest coins were of silver. So you have to understand these kind of things. And then there was, in Earth Shastra, it's mentioned about Panna, Masika, and Kakini. As I told you earlier in this video, that Indo-Greeks introduced India to the gold coins. On their coins, figure of kings and queens were also there. So also, not only they introduced us to gold coins, but also the figure of king and queens. They all first time they showed the figures of king and queen. Earlier than that, on coin there were no portrait of kings and queens. There were portraits of legends, or anything else. Coins of Vema Kadphis depict the trident symbol of Lord Shiva. Kanishka's coin depict Buddha's figure. So we can know about the Kanishka's time period and his rule. His coin depicts about Buddha's figure. The Kushanas issued the purest gold coin in India. These gold coin were called as dinar. So this is also an important point to be noted here, that Kushanas issued the purest gold. The purest gold was issued by Kushanas in India, and these coins were called as dinar. So you have to also underline this thing. Kushan and Kunindas never issued silver coins. This is also an important thing to do. See, now you have to understand three things here. Don't mess this thing up. First thing, you have to understand that Indo-Greek introduced India to the gold coins. The largest number of gold coins were issued by Guptas, and the purest gold coins were Kushanas, issued by Kushanas, and they never issued silver coins. Okay, they depicted the figure of warlord Kartikeya on coins. And then comes the first of all, on all Saka wins. First of all on Saka, when the Indian god Lord Sri Krishna was shown. So in the Saka coins, in the Saka dynasty, the Lord Sri Krishna, Indian god Sri Krishna was shown. So this is also an important thing to understand. Samudragupta issued Ashwamedh type of coins. Chandragupta Vikramaditya was the first Gupta ruler who issued silver coins. So this is also an important point. So Chandragupta Vikramaditya was the first Gupta ruler to issue silver coins. So these are the important thing that you have to understand, that Guptas issued the highest number of gold coins, but Chandragupta Vikramaditya was the one Gupta ruler who issued the silver coins. So then there were Kumaragupta also issued Ashwamedha coins, and Samudragupta also issued Ashwamedha coins. Samudragupta have issued Veena Vadak, type of coins. He has issued these sort of coins. Satavahanas, this is also important, that Satavahanas never issued gold coins. They issued silver, copper, lead, protein coins. So this is also important, that Satavahanas never issued gold coins. See, these are the three, four things that you have to understand, that Indo-Greeks were the first one. They introduced us to the gold coin. Gupta issued the highest number of gold coins. Kanishka issued the purest gold coins, and Satvahana, they did not, never issued the gold coins. So these are the things that you have to understand. And only one gold coin of Harsha period has been found, so which can literally tells us about there might be a shortage of gold. That is why there are only one coin is found. So in South India, gold coins were known as PON. So this is also important for prelims. In pre-medieval period of in pre-medieval period, the Gadhia coins were in circulation in Western India. Now we are done with ancient, but now we are talking about pre-medieval. So the Gadhia's coins were in circulation in Western India. Huan Sang, who was a Chinese visitor, mentioned the shells were used as means of sale and purchase. The paper rupee. So this is the thing that Huan Sang tells us about. The shells were used as the means of sale and purchase. And the last thing is that the paper rupees. Paper rupees means with the kind of currency that we have today, apart from the coins, like the notes of 500 to 2000, 150, 50 bucks. So paper rupees were first issued by Lord Canning. So Lord Canning is one of he was a viceroy. He was the first viceroy of the British rule in India, and he issued the paper rupees in 1860 AD, which is also an important topic, important issue. So important fact to remember. So by this we are finished with the sources of Indian history, ancient history. So this was one of the most important topic in Indian ancient history for any if even you take the state civil services or take the UPSC or IAS prelims. The first chapter, that the sources of Indian history, this was the most important chapter. There might be many questions from this particular chapter. So after this we end. So in the next video we will talk about the in entirety, in totality, we talk about the Buddhism. We will cover the entire Buddhism in the next video. So till then, I hope that you have understood the concept of literary and non-literary sources and how they have helped us to recover the history. And please make sure that you please subscribe the channel, and please make sure that you hit the bell icon to get the notifications. Thank you.